There's a moment that comes for everyone who ever took you for granted. A moment when everything suddenly clicks. A moment when the fog clears and they see what was standing right in front of them the entire time. And when that realization hits, it doesn't come gently. It crashes into them like a freight train with no brakes, shattering every assumption they ever made about you. You weren't just another option in their life. You weren't just filling space until something better came along. You were the rarest kind of soul they'll ever encounter, and they let you walk away like it meant nothing. But here's what's happening right now in this very moment as you're watching this. They're waking up, not because they suddenly became enlightened, but because life has a way of teaching the hardest lessons to those who refuse to value what they have until it's gone. This isn't about revenge. This isn't about them coming back and you taking them back. This is about the cosmic shift that occurs when someone finally realizes they fumbled the most authentic, irreplaceable person they'll ever know. And trust me when I tell you this, the weight of that realization is crushing them right now. It's hitting them in waves. In the middle of conversations with new people who don't measure up, in quiet moments when they're alone, in random memories that flood back and remind them of what real connection actually felt like. Before we go deeper into this, if you're feeling this truth resonate in your bones right now, if you're one of those rare souls who knows exactly what it feels like to be undervalued and then watch people realize too late, type 777 in the comments. Let's create a powerful wave of energy together. And make sure you subscribe to this channel because we're creating content specifically for those of you who are waking up to your own value and power. Go deep. Now let's break down exactly what's going through their minds right now and why it's hitting them so hard. They're sitting there right now comparing every new person they meet to you, and nobody comes close. Nobody has that same energy. Nobody listens the way you listened. Nobody sees them the way you saw them. They're going through their days, interacting with people who are perfectly fine, perfectly nice, perfectly adequate. And that's exactly the problem. Because you were never just adequate. You were extraordinary, in ways they couldn't even name. Here's what they're starting to understand. The way you showed up in their life wasn't normal. Most people offer conditional presence, surface-level conversations, and relationships built on convenience. But you brought something entirely different to the table. You brought depth that can't be faked. You brought authenticity that can't be manufactured. You brought a kind of emotional intelligence and awareness that most people don't even know exists, and they thought that was just how people were. They assumed they could find that anywhere, with anyone, at any time. They thought your qualities were common, that your way of being was something they'd encounter again and again throughout their life. So they didn't protect what they had. They didn't honor it. They didn't treat it like the rare treasure it actually was. They took shortcuts. They made excuses. They prioritized other things, other people, other distraction. And you, being who you are, gave them space to make those choices. But now reality is setting in like a cold winter morning after a beautiful dream. They're realizing that what you offered doesn't exist in the wild. It's not waiting for them around the next corner. It's not sitting in the next relationship. That specific combination of traits, that energy, that presence, that way you made them feel seen and understood, it was singularly yours. And they let it go, like it was nothing special. That's what's crushing them right now. Not the loss of any relationship, but the loss of that relationship with that person, with you. What they're discovering now is that you can't replace authenticity. You can surround yourself with 100 people, but if none of them are real, you're still alone. And you were the realest thing in their life. You didn't perform, you didn't pretend, you didn't mold yourself into whatever version they needed on any given day. You showed up as yourself, fully and unapologetically, and that's rarer than they ever understood. Most people go through life wearing masks, playing roles, adjusting their personalities based on who's in the room. But you weren't built that way. What they got from you was unfiltered truth, raw emotion, genuine presence. When you were happy, they felt it. When you were hurt, they knew it. When you loved, it was with your whole chest. There was no game playing, no manipulation, no hidden agenda, and at first they might have even found that intensity uncomfortable because it demanded they be real too. Now they're in spaces with people who tell them what they want to hear, people who play it safe, who keep conversations shallow, who never challenge them or push them to grow, and they're starting to feel the emptiness of that. They're starting to realize that comfort isn't the same as connection, agreement isn't the same as understanding. Someone laughing at your jokes isn't the same as someone seeing your soul and choosing to stay anyway. What you gave them was the kind of connection that transforms people, and they traded it for relationships that just pass time. Here's the brutal part they're facing now. They can't go back and undo their choices. They can't rewind time and choose differently. They can't manufacture that same chemistry with someone new just because they finally understand what they lost. The specific magic that existed between you and them was created by two unique individuals in a unique moment in time, and that moment is gone. They're carrying that weight now, and it's heavier than any regret they've ever known. One of the most powerful things happening right now is your absence. You're not fighting for their attention anymore. You're not trying to prove your worth. You're not sending paragraphs explaining why they should value you. You're just gone. And that silence is deafening. It's echoing in every space where you used to be, and they're finally hearing it. They're finally understanding that your presence was never guaranteed. It was a gift they took for granted. When you were there, you filled spaces they didn't even know were empty. You brought light to dark corners of their life. You asked questions that made them think deeper. You celebrated wins that nobody else noticed. You held space for pain they couldn't share with anyone else. All of that was happening quietly, consistently, without fanfare or demands for recognition. And because it was so natural, so effortless on your part, they assumed it always would be there. They never considered that one day it might stop. Now they're experiencing life without you, and it's revealing things they never wanted to see. Conversations feel more shallow. Experiences feel less meaningful. Victories feel emptier because you're not there to share them with. Problems feel heavier because you're not there to help them process. They're going through their days noticing your absence in 1,000 tiny ways, and each one is a small brick of realization, building a wall of regret they can't climb over or break through. Your silence isn't punishment, even though it might feel that way to them. Your silence is simply the natural consequence of someone choosing to honor themselves and walk away from situations that no longer serve them. But to them, your silence is a mirror, forcing them to confront the reality of their choices. They can't blame you. They can't make you the villain. They can only sit with the truth that they had something real and rare, and they let it slip through their fingers while they were distracted by things that ultimately meant nothing. Here's something that's probably happening right now that's driving them absolutely crazy. Other people are seeing what they couldn't see. Other people are recognizing your worth, your energy, your magic. Other people are showing up for you in ways they never did. And they're watching from the sidelines, realizing they fumbled, not just a good person, but someone that others immediately recognize as exceptional. That's a special kind of torture. Maybe you've started to thrive in ways you couldn't before. Maybe you're pouring energy into yourself that you used to pour into them. Maybe you're surrounded by people who actually appreciate and reciprocate what you bring to the table. Maybe you're just at peace, finally, after carrying the weight of an unbalanced connection for so long. Whatever your current reality looks like, they're aware of it, and they're comparing it to what they see in the mirror, and the contrast is brutal. They're watching you move through life without them. And you're not falling apart. You're not desperately trying to get them back. You're not posting cryptic messages or playing games trying to get their attention. You're just living, growing, evolving. And that's hitting them harder than any words ever could, because it confirms what they're now terrified to admit. they weren't as central to your world as they thought they were. They weren't your only source of happiness. They were part of your journey, but they're not necessary for your destination. What's really getting under their skin is seeing other people treat you the way they should have, whether that's friends who actually show up, family who celebrates you, or new connections who immediately recognize what you bring. They're witnessing the contrast. They're seeing you receive the care and respect they should have given you, and it's forcing them to face the ugly truth about how they showed up in your life. They see you laughing with others, they see you being appreciated, and every single instance is another brick hitting them with the reality of what they lost. Time is a funny thing. It moves in one direction, and there are some exits you can't come back from. This is one of those moments they're facing, the realization that there's no undo button, no reset, no magical words that will erase what happened and bring back what was. They burned a bridge, and now they're standing on the other side, watching the smoke clear, understanding too late what that bridge actually meant to them. They might want to reach out. They might draft messages they never send. They might imagine conversations where they apologize and you take them back and everything returns to how it was. But somewhere deep inside, they know that's fantasy. Because even if you did give them another chance, it would never be the same. You've changed, you've grown, you've seen their truth. The innocence of that connection is gone, and what's lost in innocence can't be recovered. Only mourn. This is the consequence they're living with now. Not that you're angry, but that you're indifferent. Not that you hate them, but that you've moved on. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's apathy, and they're starting to feel the chill of your apathy in ways that hurt more than any confrontation ever could. You're not giving them your energy anymore, not your time, not your thoughts, not your emotional investment. And for someone who used to occupy so much space in your world, being reduced to nothing is a devastating demotion. What they're learning the hard way is that some people only come around once. Some connections are once in a lifetime. Some souls cross your path exactly when you need them, and if you're not awake enough to recognize and honor that, they move on, and the opportunity is gone forever. You were that person for them, and they missed it. They were sleeping while magic was happening right in front of them. Now they're awake, but the magic has moved on to someone who will actually treasure it. This is where it gets really heavy for them. They're starting to understand that you weren't just great in that specific relationship. You weren't performing some special version of yourself just for them. The way you showed up, the way you loved, the way you cared, that is who you are. It's your standard. And that means you're going to bring that same energy to whatever and whoever comes next in your life. But they won't be on the receiving end anymore. Think about how that's landing for them. Knowing that your capacity to love deeply, to show up consistently, to offer understanding and patience and growth, all of that still exists. But it's not for them anymore. Someone else is going to experience the best of you. Someone else is going to appreciate what they took for granted. Someone else is going to build something beautiful with the same person they treated like they were ordinary. That's eating them alive right now. They're replaying moments in their mind with new understanding. Times when you went out of your way for them and they barely acknowledged it. Times when you tried to communicate and they shut down. Times when you needed support and they were conveniently unavailable. All those moments are stacking up now, showing them a pattern they couldn't see before. They weren't dealing with someone who was desperate or needy or too much. They were dealing with someone who had high standards for how relationships should feel, and they consistently failed to meet those standards. Here's what's really haunting them. They know that your next connection is going to be different, not because you'll be different, but because you're more selective now. You've learned. You've grown, you know your worth in ways you didn't before, so whoever gets access to you next will have earned it. They'll appreciate it, they'll match your energy instead of draining it, and the person you're becoming as a result of this experience is even more incredible than the person they knew. They lost you at version 1.0, someone else is going to meet you at version 2.0, upgraded, and unavailable to anything less than reciprocal respect. Every person they meet now gets compared to you, and nobody's passing the test. That friend who said they'd be there but flaked at the last minute, you never did that. That new romantic interest who keeps conversation surface level, you went deep without fear. That family member who judges instead of understanding, you always held space without judgment. They're surrounded by people, but they're lonely in a way they've never experienced before, because none of these people are you. What they're discovering is that certain qualities don't come in packages. You can't pick and choose traits from different people to recreate what one person offered naturally. You can't get your emotional depth from one person, your loyalty from another, your humor from someone else, and your understanding from yet another, and somehow piece together what you brought to the table as a complete package. It doesn't work that way. You were a whole person, and what you offered was the integrated sum of all your parts working together. They're also realizing that connection isn't about checking boxes. Someone can have impressive credentials, look good on paper, say all the right things, and still feel empty compared to what you offered. Because real connection isn't about perfection or performance. It's about resonance. It's about frequency. It's about two people who just fit in ways that can't be explained or replicated. And they had that with you. They had something that most people spend their whole lives searching for, and they threw it away. The comparison trap is relentless because it follows them everywhere. It's in their morning coffee that tastes different because you're not there to share it with. It's in songs that remind them of moments you shared. It's in jokes nobody else gets the way you did. It's in their own thoughts when something happens and their first instinct is to tell you about it, then remembering they can't anymore. You've become the measuring stick by which everything else falls short, and that's a prison sentence they built for themselves with their own choices. While they've been stuck in their patterns, you've been evolving. You've been healing, learning, upgrading every aspect of yourself. You took the pain of that experience and alchemized it into power. You used that ending as a beginning. And now, you're becoming the highest version of yourself, and they're witnessing it from a distance, knowing they could have been part of that journey but chose not to be. That's hitting them hard. They're seeing you glow differently. Maybe it's in your confidence. Maybe it's in your peace. Maybe it's in how you carry yourself now with a quiet strength that wasn't as visible before. Whatever it is, it's undeniable. You've shed layers of people-pleasing and self-doubt. You've stopped shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. You've stepped into your full authenticity and power, and the energy you're radiating now is magnetic. And they know deep down that they could have been part of this transformation, but instead they became a lesson you had to learn. What they're struggling with most is knowing that this upgraded version of you is the result of moving past them. That the person you're becoming required the space that opened up when they left. That your growth was directly connected to your willingness to release what wasn't serving you, which included them. They wanted to be part of your story, but they ended up being a chapter you had to close to write better ones. That's a hard truth to swallow. They're watching you level up in real time. Better opportunities are coming your way. Better people are surrounding you. Better energy is flowing to and through you. And all of it is happening without them. They thought they were the prize you were lucky to have. Now they're realizing they were the weight you were wise to release. They thought you needed them. Now they're seeing clearly that you're thriving, specifically because they're no longer there, draining your energy and limiting your potential. They might be hoping this is temporary. They might be thinking you'll cool off, soften up, come back around eventually. But here's what they're slowly starting to comprehend. You're not coming back. This isn't a break. This isn't a pause. This is a permanent shift in the landscape of your life, and they're no longer on the map. That realization is settling in like heavy fog, and they can't see their way out of it. You're not the type to make emotional decisions you regret later. You didn't leave on impulse. You left because you reached a point of clarity where staying was no longer aligned with who you are and who you're becoming. You weren't being dramatic or trying to teach them a lesson or playing hard to get. You were being honest with yourself about what you deserve and making a mature decision to honor that truth. And decisions made from that level of consciousness don't get reversed. They're starting to understand that your boundaries aren't negotiable. Your standards aren't flexible. Your self-respect isn't for sale. They thought if they gave you space or said the right words or made the right gestures, you'd come running back. But you're not running anywhere. You're standing still in your power, completely comfortable with your choice. And that's terrifying to them because it means they have zero control over the outcome. The ball was in their court when it mattered. They dropped it. Game over. The permanence of your decision is the final brick hitting them. It's the ultimate realization that they didn't just make a mistake, they can fix. They altered the entire trajectory of a connection that could have been beautiful, and there's no going back. The door isn't just closed, it's locked, and you're on the other side building something new without them. That's not cruelty. That's self-preservation. That's wisdom. That's what happens when someone finally learns their worth and refuses to settle for less than they deserve. Here's something they'll carry with them for the rest of their lives. The memory of you. Not the distorted version they convinced themselves of when they were taking you for granted, but the real you. The one who showed up. The one who cared. The one who saw their potential even when they couldn't see it themselves. That version of you is going to haunt them in the most bittersweet way, because they'll spend years meeting people and none of them will quite measure up to the ghost of what they had with you. You've become their what-if story, the one they'll think about late at night, the one they'll compare everyone else to, the one they'll tell future partners about when they're being vulnerable about their biggest regrets. I had someone once who really saw me, and I didn't appreciate them until it was too late. That's the story they're living with now. That's the legacy of their choices. And there's no redemption arc coming to save them from that narrative. What makes this so powerful is that you're not sitting around waiting for them to realize your worth. You've moved on. You're building a life that doesn't include them. You're creating memories with people who actually value you. You're experiencing joy that has nothing to do with them. And that's the ultimate plot twist they didn't see coming. They thought losing you would hurt you more than it hurt them. They thought you'd fall apart without them. But you didn't. You rose. And that's what's truly hitting them like bricks now. The legacy of losing you isn't just about what they lost. It's about what they'll never have. The future that could have been, the memories that will never be made, the life they could have built with someone who actually gave a damn. All of that is gone, replaced with the heavy knowledge that they had lightning in a bottle and they let it go. And lightning doesn't strike the same place twice. What you were to them, you'll never be again. Not because you're bitter, but because you've evolved beyond the person who would give them that opportunity. If you've made it this far, you already know your value. You already understand what it means to be rare in a world full of ordinary. You've walked away from situations that didn't honor you, and you're watching from a distance as the truth unfolds, exactly as you knew it would. This message is your confirmation, your reminder, your validation that you made the right choice. And if any of this resonated with you on a soul level, type 999 in the comments right now. Let's create a powerful surge of energy for everyone who's chosen themselves over settling. You are not for everyone. And that's exactly as it should be. Your energy, your presence, your way of showing up in the world, it's designed for people who can match it, appreciate it, and reciprocate it. Anyone who couldn't do that has shown you exactly who they are. Believe them, honor yourself, and keep walking forward, knowing that the right people will see you, value you, and choose you consistently. Not because they finally figured out what they lost, but because they recognize what they've found. This is your reminder that you don't need closure from people who've already shown you their truth. You don't need apologies from people who still don't understand what they've done. You don't need validation from people who had the chance to see you and chose blindness instead. You need to keep being exactly who you are, unapologetically, powerfully, authentically, because that's what attracts the right kind of energy into your life and repels the wrong kind before they can waste your time. To those who underestimated you, took you for granted, treated you like an option, or let you go without a fight, this is your moment of karma. Not in a vindictive way, but in a universal balance kind of way. What you refused to value when it was freely given is now unavailable at any price. The realization is hitting them like bricks, because truth always does eventually, but by the time they figured it out, you were already gone, already healed, already thriving, already surrounded by better energy. And that, beautiful soul, is the most powerful ending you could have written to that chapter. Now go write something even better in the next one. Thank you for being here.